Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin.
10 minutes left. Yeah, but there's still some time. It's not the final score. We need more than the numbers we're given. Show us you live and breathe the game. You're more than a name. That's what we came for. We can bring you more than the score. Every story. Let's take this thing off of the field into the real world, away from the numbers,
Hello again and welcome to episode 126 of There's Still Time, the AFTN podcast. I'm Michael McCall.
I'm Steve Pander.
And I'm Jay Duke.
And this is another outside broadcast episode of the podcast. We're bringing you this live from Thunderbird Stadium. It's the final USL game of the season, Whitecaps 2 and Austin Aztex. So there'll be a little bit of background noise, a little bit of wind, hopefully not as much wind as the last podcast, which many apologies for, because that really was dreadful sound quality. So we're going to try and negate that this episode. So hopefully you hear us, there'll be some crowd atmosphere as well, but it just adds to it all, doesn't it? And we're a little bit down. We had to watch Seattle Sounders come to BC Place, score 3 goals, lift the Cascadia Cup, grasp it from the sweaty palms of the supporters groups. Steve, you were lucky, you were at a funeral.
Yes, so I will excuse myself from this conversation and let Jay Duke take over.
And I was kind of wishing I was at a funeral yesterday watching that. Obviously not a close relative, but just like a distant one, because there wasn't a lot of positives to take for the game. There was some which we'll come to, but like Jay, what did you make of the overall game?
Well, I'm actually going to be the glass half full guy. Now, I mean, Seattle played a perfect game, so credit to them, but what it came down to is the Whitecaps had 3 very good, or 2 excellent and 1 good scoring chance in the first half and failed to capitalize on them. And then, of course, right before the half, Seattle comes in and pinches one on one of their only chances. And that's pretty much the game, because then Seattle can come out on the second half with a completely different game plan and just stifle the Whitecaps and trying to hit on the break, which they did and did successfully. Now, I think you got to give a lot of credit for the Whitecaps for coming out in the second half and really being on the front foot. The pessimist in me says, why didn't they just do that from the start? Because you know that they have the ability to take it to a team like Seattle. So why didn't they just do that from the start? It was a little bit cagey, and it probably didn't have to be as cagey as it was.
The way that they played the second half, I mean, that is a positive. They fought non-stop. Russell Tybert, I thought, was excellent. He hustled for every ball. He really put in a great performance. The first half, I mean, it came down to taking chances. Whitecaps had numerous chances. Seattle had one and they took it. Mark Rogers made a really good point in the post-game show that after the game, the Whitecaps players and Kyle Robinson was going on about, well, we didn't take our chances, that was the difference, etc., etc. But ultimately, that's what the game's about. It's about taking chances and scoring goals. I know you can look at like Fs and buts and everything like that. I mean, you talk about chances not being taken. I mean, it was... The game swiveled in the space of 2 minutes. Teixeira had the chance, he didn't bury it, and we've seen him score some fantastic goals. Looking at it again, some folk were saying he should maybe have passed, but I don't really think there was anyone he could have passed to that would have made a difference. Rosales was at the edge of the box, but I thought Rosales had a bit of a stinker, and everyone knows how big a fan I am of Rosales. I wouldn't have bit him and putting that away. So Teixeira did right, great bit of control, bringing the ball down and having the shot, but you have to take our chances, and we didn't. I think that the good thing about the game is that other results have gone in our favour this week. We're still top of the Supporters' Shield.
Which is unbelievable.
New York's drawn level in points by beating Portland today, but we've got the tiebreaker in wins. So it wasn't a disastrous loss, but with 5 games to go, it's how we bounce back from that now.
Yeah, and I mean, it stings extra because it was against Seattle, and it stings even more because it was for a cup, and they could have won another piece of silverware. But we've had those games go the other direction as well. So I think it all evens out in the end, and the Whitecaps have done well this year at bouncing back after poor performances or losses. And as long as they can do that and beat a team that they have to be able to beat at home in New York City this coming week, that's going to be the most important.
So I don't want to talk too much about the Seattle game because it is just depressing, but I mean, for you, Jay, is there any players that particularly stood out, either good or bad, from the match?
Yeah, I thought the midfield actually, despite being outpossessed through the game, especially the first half there, I thought Tybert and Kofi both played pretty well. Specifically, Tybert was all over the place. I thought they did well. I thought both Rivero and Rosales had pretty big off nights. Probably one of Rivero's worst, actually. He didn't look himself out there, and there's probably questions going to be being asked now and throughout the offseason unless he really goes on a goal-scoring streak here, whether or not he's going to be the answer going forward as your striker, because he's doing all the right things usually, but if you don't score as a striker, your options are going to be limited to where you can play.
The issue with that, though, is what options do they have other than Rivero at this point? Because as we're hearing, Maddox might be injured more than people that are on.
Well, it's not something that's going to solve itself this year. He's going to have the rest of the season playing every single minute of every single game. Yeah, they were poor. I thought Mane had a bit of an off game as well. Teixeira did what he could out there, and despite having a couple tragic moments, I thought Jordan Smith did all right. He looks very good going forward. One of the things I noticed about him is he doesn't just go wide and add that width in attack, but he also will come inside and almost help out like an extra midfielder. So there's a lot of potential there. He was made to look pretty poor on the Ivan Schitz goal, though. Misplayed the man, and then when the ball came in, he missed that too. So you can miss either the man or the ball, but you can't miss both, and that's what he did, and he was made to look really bad for it. So overall, not a great performance anywhere.
Now, the thing with Rivero, I thought that the first half of the first half, he looked really up for it. He was putting himself about. He had 3 chances in the space of about 5 minutes, and I think once Fry stopped him twice, or stopped him once and then he curled the other one like by the post, his confidence just seemed to go. It's like he felt, okay, this is not going to be my night, I'm not going to get anything. And then after that, we didn't see him as an attacking presence for the rest of the game. The worry that I have is like Matix is now out with a rib injury. From what we heard from one of the other players, he was really struggling for breath on Friday at training, so wasn't able to make the bench on Saturday. Unlikely to be featuring midweek now either. And the big issue that we have is if this becomes prolonged, we don't have really anyone else up front. If Rivero's not in form and you wanted to drop Rivero, or if Rivero gets injured, or if Rivero gets suspended from yellow card accumulation, which I think he's 2 away from now. But if something happens that Rivero's out of the team and Matix is injured, we don't have a striker really that can come in, because Caleb Clark's not had any minutes in the first team. He's played USL.
And
so I mean,
Ernie's old. Ernie's old, and he hasn't had very many game time either.
But then why have Earnshaw? I've been on this all year.
No, I'm saying that he's going to be an option. He obviously, I think he can play, but how effective is he going to be considering he hasn't played much?
I agree with you, but all I'm saying is that this has been one of the very few mismanagements on Robinson's part. Earnshaw could provide something to a team. He's not going to be as good of a hold-up player, but he can hold on to the ball. He's good with his feet. He'll play in other players. He certainly can finish. So why not play him? Maddox has been in extremely poor form all year, including one of probably his worst performance of the year on Wednesday before the injury. So if you're saying that Earnshaw hasn't been playing enough, to trust him at this point, that's not Earnshaw's fault because he's on the squad. That's what he should be there for. And so if he had a lack of game time, that's on Robinson to ensure that he would be fit enough to get in. And quite frankly, he's such an experienced guy and such a professional. I don't think it would be that big of a drop-off. I don't mean to say that that's no disrespect to Rivera, who I know is, at this point a much better option, but Earnshaw's such a good professional. He'll give you an honest effort, and he'll be okay out there if you had to start him every game. It's just whether or not he can go 90 every game.
We're going to see him, I would think, start up front against Seattle in the Champions League on Wednesday. I mean, he played the full game against Olympia on Wednesday. Didn't look fantastic, looked a little bit rusty, but that's understandable. He
had his chance near the end of the game, but he just knocked it off the goalkeeper's face, right? So and he had that lively attempt at the bicycle, so he's definitely still got his stuff there.
And he's a proven goal scorer.
Yeah.
Going into a season running though, when there's so much on the line, it's like you kind of want a guy that's been playing a little bit this year, and that's my fear, that if anything happens to Rivera, we don't have that guy that can maybe step up. But hopefully Earnshaw is the man. So the last thing I want to talk about from the Seattle game is there was the incident between Waston and Dempsey. After Seattle had gone 2-0 up, Waston went in for a tackle, won the ball, cleaned out Dempsey in the process, and Toledo didn't give a free kick. Then all of a sudden, he sees that Dempsey's down, calls the play back, books Waston, and I still don't actually think he gave them a free kick. I think it was a drop ball, but I don't think Seattle realised it was a drop ball and didn't give us the ball back. Do you think that there's any chance that MLS are going to review that and upgrade Waston's yellow to a red card for reckless play?
I would have to go back and look at it and look at the end of game report, because I don't even know if it was a given for dissent or if it was given for the tackle, because unless the fourth official said something to him, like indicated, or one of the linesmen indicated that Waston should have got a card for it, it's a shocking decision, like really bad to come back and give a yellow card. It reeks again of the issue that you have with transparency in the league and the stars and the certain teams being given preferential treatment. But it seems that Waston, even in games, seems to be getting yellow cards all over the season purely based on reputation. That it wouldn't surprise me if the league reviews it and has a look at it again, purely on reputation. Oh, Kendall Waston got a questionable 2-footed tackle. Let's have a look at it. I'd have to look at it again to see whether or not I upon first look in the in game there on the big screen, I did not think it was a red card worthy offense. But I've been surprised all year with officiating and with review decisions a lot of the time. So. Your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah, there has been some really strange decisions. I mean, looking back at it, I thought it was a good tackle. He clearly won the ball. It's whether they view that his studs were up a little bit and whether he followed through and cleaned out Dempsey. I agree with you that because it's Waston, it's kind of a little bit tainted, and it's like, is reputation going to go ahead that he's a tough player? It's not as big a loss as if we didn't have some good guys to come in, but we have got good backups. But he's still, whenever Waston plays, he's just a beast up front. If he is going to be suspended though, I'd like the suspension to be announced early so he can play midweek against Seattle. Because then if they know that he's not going to be available for the New York game, then it's like, fine, tell us early, let him play midweek in the Champions League. But I think that's all I'm going to talk about the Seattle game just now. Of course, it was a battle on Saturday. Another battle is going to be expected on Wednesday. Champions League down at the Clink. If either team gets a win, then they've clinched a spot in the knockout rounds and the quarterfinals. It's what kind of side the Whitecaps are going to put out there. It does look like they might go with another fringe lineup like what they did against Olympia. What's your thinking on that, Jay? Do you think that they should go with a light lineup and concentrate on getting points against New York on Saturday? Or or should they play a mixture, or should they just go for this with a Champions League qualification spot on the line, knowing that if they qualify now, the game in Olympia means nothing and they can keep some good guys at home?
I'd like to see a bit of a mix. I think it's going to be a complete switch up again, and you're going to see all the second 11 group. But I also think that's what Seattle's going to do as well, is play their second 11, and that favors the Whitecaps. So I think Robinson will be thinking about that when he goes into the game, knowing that his second 11 is probably deeper than Seattle's second 11. So even without playing your starters. But I'd like to see even a guy like Laba, who didn't have to play this week. So other than on Wednesday, you could put him in for 60 minutes or something like that to start the match, and then still play him again. I mean, he's fit enough to play 60 minutes on Wednesday and then another full game on Saturday. So a couple of those guys going in is what I would like to see. But I think it's going to be a complete switch to the second 11.
Yeah, I'd like to see a mix as well, but I think what we're going to see is actually just a lot of the fringe guys, especially in the back. I could see Dean getting a start in the middle, maybe beside Rodriguez. Smith's played 2 games now in a row, so you have to think Parker's maybe going to come in at right back because Beitashour is injured. And then we'll have Adekugbe in at left back. Tornagi and goal, so a very inexperienced back line. Lab and Flores in front of them. And then that's when I think we need to get some quality in the midfield and up front. Otherwise, I think Seattle will play a mixture, and if we don't, it could be a bit of a blowout, and then it would still mean that the game in Olympia doesn't actually mean anything, so they can keep their guys at home, but it would be a disappointing way to end the campaign.
I'm going to disagree with both you guys. I think I would like to see a second squad there. At this point, they've won the Voyageurs Cup this year. That means they're definitely going to be going next year to this tournament. So I'd like to see get these young guys some experience. If we win, we win. If we don't, then I don't think it makes too much of a difference.
And you have to wonder as well, I know you should never say how much do the club want it, because Carl says they want to win everything that they go into. Bobby Lenarduzzi's always said that as well. But the thing that I wonder is, how much disruption is it going to be if the Whitecaps qualify? They're going to have to bring the players back early for pre-season. They always like to go to Arizona and Portland. Portland would not be an option because the game would probably be the week of the Portland tournament. There could be a chance that Robinson decides to take them to the UK for some pre-season warm-up, just like Frank Yallop did with Chicago this year. And I mean, you saw the benefit that was to Chicago.
And Robbo could get some interviews in at that time too.
Yeah, that'd be good. Of course, CONCACAF, it was just announced last week, are going to be changing the timing of the Champions League, so that's not going to come in the future. Yeah. So next year's one is going to be great for the Whitecaps. I think this year, they would be a little bit sad, but I think ultimately, if they don't qualify, they're not going to be 2 up nor 2 down.
And the thing is, if they don't qualify, this lets them concentrate on MLS completely for the rest of the season. The Honduras trip will not be a factor at all in October. So, if they win, that won't be a factor either. But if they lose, it won't be a factor. I think the worst case scenario is a draw where it keeps them in the tournament.
Yeah, that would probably be a nightmare scenario, because Olympia then's got a really good chance of qualifying if they win their last group game. And to be honest, I'd rather Olympia went through than Seattle, so I'd still send a crappy team down for that. And another thing which we talked about in the last podcast as well, I checked with the Whitecaps. They are not allowed to play USL players in the competition. The players have to have an MLS contract. So the Whitecaps also inquired about that as well, because they were thinking ahead, but it has to be players on an MLS contract. You could still send a weakened team down there, and a team with maybe not the full amount of subs as well. So I don't think that would be too much of an impact. And I mean, the Whitecaps, it's I think October 22nd is the game in Olympia, and then that's on a Thursday, and then on the Sunday they play the last game of the season against Houston. So I mean, the Supporters' Shield could be on the line at that, Western Conference title could be on the line, top 2 place in the West. So they're not going to want to send too strong a team down there no matter what, I don't think. Even if qualification's up for grabs, it's not going to be a strong team that goes to Honduras. So what's your prediction for Wednesday, Steve? Do you think we have a chance, or do you think it's going to be Seattle all the way?
Well, being the pessimist, I think it's going to be a 2-2 draw. I think it's going to be the worst case where they have something to play for in Honduras.
I just have a sense that Seattle's going to play a pretty strong side. I actually think it might be another 3-0 scoreline, sadly. It also doesn't look like there's going to be a lot of Whitecaps fans making the trip down there. One of the things I was told is that there's been less than 100 tickets sold, but I mean, surely that can't be right. But a midweek game for a squad that might be like fringe players, it's kind of understandable. Sad, but understandable. So as we said, we're recording this podcast at Thunderbird Stadium. WFC2 lost their final game of the season 3-2 to Austin Aztex. 2-0 up, 2 goals from Brett Levi's before a great fight back from Austin Aztex. Disappointing into the season, but let's hear a little bit now from head coach Alan Koch, who's just going to talk about the game, how he feels the season went, and just the future of this side and this group of players. So here's Alan Koch.
Yeah, it's definitely a success. Obviously, the number of individuals within our group that have grown immensely during the course of the season is a resounding success. Obviously, we're trying to balance development and trying to win some games, and today was a great snapshot of what our season's been like. Play good football, scored 2 fantastic goals by Brett Levi's, could have scored a few other ones, and then obviously some momentary lapses, and we concede 3 goals and we lose the game. But positives, we're playing good football within the club model, and positives, we played 2 other teenagers again today they got 30 minutes in today's game. So fantastic opportunities for them.
Coach, this is kind of a challenging position to be in. Is it safe to say you've learned a few things over the course of the year?
Yeah, patience probably is one of the biggest things. This is development, obviously, so it takes time. It takes time to develop individual players. It takes time to build a team. Obviously, the makeup of being essentially our club's reserve team, it's been continually changing. But yeah, learned a lot, and I think our entire group has learned a lot, which will hopefully help us be better next year. I think it's something more as a club that we need to address. Obviously, our first team's had fantastic results this year and won a lot of games. But we'll obviously have to adjust a couple of positional needs that we need as a club because we have players that get loaned down from the MLS team. But then we'll also have to make a couple of key USL acquisitions so we have the right players in certain positions. Well, we've got a lot of young players, and hopefully we're going to retain a lot of these young players, which is great, so we can continue to mold them into the type of players we want them to be. We definitely need 1 or 2 of the right experienced players, and we've got a few months obviously to address that over the off-season.
How has the season shaped you as a coach, going through this for the first time?
Good question. I'm used to winning, so it's been. I mentioned patience. That's been my biggest challenge. Obviously, is we're having to balance things, and it's been a growing and learning experience as we've gone along. I feel like I've learned. I feel like our players have learned. I feel like our WFC2 group have grown and got better. I think our on-field product has got better as we've gone throughout the season, and I think it's going to be nice now for us to reflect on the successes, reflect on the areas that we need to adjust and make sure we're better with them, so we can continue to move forward in the right direction next year.
Obviously, you were talking about next year, but what's the next step for them this year? Is there going to be any post-season training? Are you going to keep guys around and work on some stuff and keep kind of the chemistry going on?
Yeah, I think we're going to definitely train. We're going to train for the next few months, I think, which is going to be great because it gives us actually an opportunity now to actually focus on addressing individual needs. When you roll from game to game, a lot of the time you're just preparing the team to make sure you get yourself ready for that game. Now we can actually have chats with the players and look at certain things and say, hey, you need to work on this. But thankfully we've got the next 2 months to actually address those things, which will make them better come next preseason.
The 3 young players that were recently signed, what have, in the few games you've seen of them, what have you seen out of them? And they're obviously going to go back to residency. What can they improve on during there and bring back to the Reds?
Yeah, great opportunity, obviously, for him coming and earn professional playing minutes. And I think today was a great snapshot of the step between playing youth football and stepping into a professional team. I don't think Tommy and Caden did badly by any means. Today was a good development opportunity for them, but they got another taste of it, and hopefully they can grow from that. I know Terran went away with the residency team this weekend. I haven't chatted with any of the technical staff yet to see how he did, but they've got to realize that they've got to work hard there so that when they come back to us next preseason, they're going to be ready to make the jump up. And that doesn't just go for them, that goes for all the other lads in the residency team. We're continually looking at them, we're continually evaluating them to see who are the right guys that are deserving of these opportunities so we can push them up into this environment and hopefully push as many of them as we can up into the MLS.
Brent Levi has a strong game today. He's another guy who receives an opportunity to come in with this team. How much have you seen him improve, and is he a great example for other players who can come to this team, and who knows what the opportunities present?
Yeah, fantastic for Brett to score two great goals today. Obviously, he's been coming back from injury, got his first minutes last week, did decent in his minutes that he had. I thought he deserved to start today, and he obviously went out and put in a great performance. We knew he'd get fatigued because he's not match fit just yet, and that's why we had to take him off when we did. But he had a great game. He's a good motivator for the young kids. He's a great motivator for the other players of his age. He's a motivator for all of our USL guys that when you get a chance, take it. And coming in as an attacking player, getting his first start in a long, long time and scoring 2 goals, that's a great performance.
Is Brett also good motivation for players in academy centers that we have across the country now who, if you can make it into our environment, who knows where you can go from there?
Yeah, huge. It's obviously he's part of the club model. Coming from Saskatchewan, obviously being in a remote area of Canada, they haven't received traditionally as many development opportunities. So it's a great opportunity for him to be here. And I think for some of the players back in the prairies, they see him have success. Obviously, it gives them something to work towards. And he's a great role model for those players.
So it was a tough loss for the Whitecaps 2 side today. Let's hear now from Austin head coach Paul Dalgleish, who's going to talk a little bit just about the season that Austin had, the first in USL after moving up from PDL, and just about what made him return back to Texas after being assistant coach with RSL last season. So Paul, a great end of the season for you. I mean, coming back from 2 goals down, how did you see the game?
Yeah, it was. I thought we were really good first half, and apart from the kind of unforced errors, we conceded a few chances from unforced errors, but I thought our general play was excellent. I thought we dominated possession and really played a nice style to watch. And second half, it was a little bit different. It was a little bit more intensity to the performance, and going down 2 goals, it was a bit of a sickener, to be honest. But then the guys showed unbelievable spirit and desire to win the last game, and to be honest with you, it was really important because it's a long off season in this league, and to finish the last game with a win, and that'll take us up 2 extra places in the final stand. And it's important because we're a very young team and a lot of inexperience in the team, and it's been mission accomplished this year, trying to make young players better and move them on to a higher level, and I feel we've done that.
I mean, it's the club's first season at this level at USL. What differences have you noticed from the time that you were here with the PDL team?
Yeah, well, we tried to do it a little bit differently from the normal standalone teams, if you like. We wanted to keep our PDL roots and sign the likes of Ambrose and Roker and Devon Perales, who 2 of those 3 should still be in school. So it was important for us. We wanted to blood these young players, and just like we're so proud of seeing Kakuta playing for the Whitecaps, we want to see some of these guys playing in MLS as well. So it was a really successful first year. We feel we've made some young players better, and hopefully we can move them on.
So for the club and for you yourself, was it an easy decision to decide to come back to Austin from being at RSL and leaving MLS to come back down to this level?
It wasn't an easy decision, no, because I was really happy at RSL, and RSL's a fantastic organisation with great people, and it was a pleasure working there. So no, it wasn't an easy decision at all. But I felt I wanted to come and sit in the driver's seat, not the passenger seat, for a year, and see if my ideas were put my ideas into practice. And I feel I've done that, and don't know what the future holds, but I think it was the right decision.
Obviously you had Kakuta Mane with Austin during the PDL days. How have you seen his growth now that he's with the Whitecaps here in MLS?
I think Kakuta he's transitioned a little bit since he's come here. When he was with Austin, he was a pure goal scorer, really, just a kind of real goal scorer. And now he's added a different side to his game, where he's a little bit more involved in the build-up, and his work rate certainly improved. And I think that the guys at Vancouver and Carl in particular have done a great job with him.
Okay, thanks so much. Pleasure talking to you. Thanks, Paul. Well, that's it for this episode of the podcast. I'm Michael McCall. You can find me on Twitter at AFTN Canada. Read all our stuff, aftn.ca, away from the numbers. I'm also the Whitecaps beat reporter for MLSsoccer.com, so check all our stuff out on that. But until next time, thanks for listening, take care, and mon the Caps.
Going to your first match is an experience you never forget. The atmosphere of what's going on around the pitch looks beautiful, and you always look and go, wow, I'd love to play here one day. If you get the bug, it's going to stay with you for life.